Hey everybody, you guys all voted that I should do a tips video, and so I thought I would put a few of my favorite tips and things that helped me with keto when I started. I've been doing keto for over 4 months now, and I'm loving it. And I just wanted to share some of the knowledge that I have. Obviously, I am not an expert in this area. This is just stuff that's worked for me, so I thought I'd pass that along. I have a list. I'm going to try and get through it pretty quickly. So the very first thing is do not restrict your calories. I know people think that when you go on a diet, you need to cut back your calories and eat less. And that's not the case at all, especially with keto. First of all, you just want to be eating better quality foods. You want to be making sure that what you are eating is better for you. So find a keto calculator, put in your measurements. There's lots of them online that are free, and it'll tell you how many calories you should be consuming a day. When I started, I think I was around 1,600 calories. I know people that do it with 2,000 calories. So you don't need to restrict yourself. You just need to eat better. The second thing is weigh and measure your food. If you don't do this, I highly recommend it. You should get a scale. They're 20 bucks. You can get them on Amazon for like 15 bucks. Go get a scale and measure your food, because it's going to be really hard if you're doing the hard work to track your food. You may as well actually be measuring it to know that for sure you're getting 3 ounces of meat or 2 ounces of cheese. Like, you want to know that that you're eating the right amount of stuff as best as you can. So seriously, just go invest in a scale. It will make life easier. And once you get used to what you're eating, you don't have to measure every time. You'll learn that, okay, this much cheese is an ounce because you've had it every day for a month, right? So you do get used to it. You won't always have to measure, but in the beginning, it really makes a difference and it makes it less overwhelming. The second thing is keep it simple. I guess that's the third thing. Please don't overwhelm yourself. If this is such an overwhelming idea to begin with, why would you complicate it by trying to find all these crazy keto recipes? Leave that for later. Start in the beginning and have everything be really simple. Pick some meats that you like, some proteins that you like, find some fats that you like, and just make sure that you put that in and find that it matches your macros for the day. Even this moves into my next one. My number 4 is to meal prep. If you are in the beginning and you know, okay, I like these foods, make the same thing every day for a week for your work week. Try not to make it complicated. I don't eat the same thing I did in the beginning because I got sick of it, so that probably will happen to you, but at least I knew that I was getting the right amount of food and I was not going to have to question whether my macros were right. I knew that I found something that worked and I ate it every day. So the second part of meal prepping is it really helps you when you get home from work and you end up being exhausted and you don't know what to make, and it's easy then to just go and grab the things that are not good for you. Whereas if you have a bunch of hard-boiled eggs sitting in your fridge, cooked chicken breast, ground beef, you know, cheese grated up, like everything is kind of there and ready for you, then when you're starving, you don't really know what to have, you can grab something that's easy and quick, but you know it's still keto and it'll fit into your plan. That also leads me into another idea that I got given to me was the night before I would always sit down and I would try and plunk in all the things I was going to eat the next day, so that I was kind of front loading. I was preparing myself for the next day instead of just doing it at every meal and like guessing if it would end up working out in the end of the day. I would actually lay in bed and I would just kind of plunk in what I thought I would eat, and get to my total, and then I knew, okay, this is what I'm having, this is what I'm having, and it actually worked so much better for me. I was less stressed out that way. So try that. The next thing is going to be hard to hear, but limit your treats. There is an option for everything that you love that's not keto to be made into keto. There's a version of all those treats, and while I think that's amazing, don't get tripped up, especially in like the first to 6 weeks or so. Don't cheat. Don't have any of these treats and crazy things. I mean, I say that, but actually I allowed myself to have one treat every day, and that was my Starbucks coffee with heavy cream and sugar-free vanilla. That was my one thing that I allowed myself to have. I know somebody else who allowed themselves to have one Diet Coke a day, and that was their thing. And so don't want to say, like, obviously you're probably going to struggle with some cravings, so find something that you can treat yourself with, but don't go overboard. Limit the amount of treats you're having. There are tons of amazing, like, candies and chocolates and all these awesome things that you can have when you're on keto, but try not to have too many of them because it will trip you up. And something that no one told me was too much of that, like, sugar-free and, like, sweetener the options for sweeteners, like, what is there, stevia and xylitol. Like, there's a whole bunch of these sweeteners that you can use, the monk fruits, you know, and those drops. If you have too much of that, it actually can cause you to have diarrhea. So that's fine. So just try and limit what you're having. And, like, let yourself have cheats later on, but in the beginning, try and be really strict about it and try and stick with the plan. You'll feel better too. Be gentle with yourself. If you mess up, if you have a hard day, or you don't get your numbers quite right, and you're off on your protein, you're off on your fats, or you've had too many calories, don't stress out about it. The first couple weeks, I actually did not measure or track anything because I think it was like 10 days because I did not want to think about that. I just wanted to know that at least I'm eating the right foods. I'm cutting out the carbs. I'm cutting out the sugar. I'm cutting out the grains. But I know now that I'm eating the right things, so that when I started to track my food, it was easier because I didn't have to think about what I was allowed to eat. I just started to count better. So then it was like a tweaking. So be gentle with yourself, and if you mess up, just get back up and keep on going. Don't throw the towel out just because, you know, you ate something you shouldn't have ate. No, just get up and keep going. The next thing is, people always want to measure their ketones with ketosis, and they're always really worried about, well, how do I know that I'm in ketosis? You can get little strips that you measure your pee, and you can see what, like how many ketones you're at there. It only really works for the first couple weeks while you're trying to get into ketosis. It'll show you, yep, you're building ketones. It's only measuring the excess ketones, the ones that your body's not using. So once you're in deep ketosis and your body's gotten really good at burning fat as fuel, it might stop showing on the little strips. And so you're like, oh, I'm not in keto anymore. But you are. Your body's just not producing as much because it doesn't need as much, and it's using the ones that it is producing. So if you're in the very beginning, you can try that. But I don't think it's necessary. As long as you're eating the food properly, you're going to be in ketosis. The next thing is intermittent fasting. And this is something that was hard for me in the very beginning to wrap my mind around. I kind of pushed back on it. It has made all of the difference. If you're not already intermittent fasting, start small and then build up to it. So the goal is to be doing 16 hours of fasting and having an 8-hour eating window. You can do that in the morning, like have a breakfast and a lunch, or you can do lunch and dinner. It doesn't matter when the 8 hours are and when the 16 hours are. Just do it. It really does make all the difference. Keto and intermittent fasting go hand in hand. When you're not eating, that is when your body is burning your own fat, your body fat as fuel. When you're eating food, your body is using the dietary fat that you're eating to burn for fuel, right? So it only makes sense that when you're not eating, then that is when you're using your body fat, and that's when you burn more fat, is during intermittent fasting. So it makes a huge difference. I've slowly worked myself up to having 20-hour fasts, 22-hour fasts. I would love to do a 24-hour fast and then a 48-hour fast. You don't have to do those long, prolonged ones very often. Even if you're just doing intermittent fasting, the 16-8, that would be a huge start. And you don't have to do it every day. Like, for a while, I was only doing intermittent fasting during work days. So 4 days a week, I was doing them. And then on the days I wasn't working, I would have my breakfast. And that also helped. So just try a couple different things, but I promise that intermittent fasting makes all the difference. Also, when you are tracking your food, net carbs, y'all, make sure that your app that you're using to track your carbs is tracking net carbs, not total carbs. Total carbs will freak you out. You'll be like, what? I'm having way too many carbs. It's because it's not factoring in the fiber. A lot of the foods we eat have fiber in them, which counteracts the carbs that are in it. So yeah, simple switch. Just go into your app. You can switch it to net carbs. A couple other things that I wrote down. Apple cider vinegar, huge benefit, especially in the morning when I'm fasting. It helps curb my appetite. There's a lot of videos that you should go and look. Because I don't know the scientific stuff all really well. I'm not going to speak to it, but I've learned a lot watching Thomas DeLauer, Dr. Eric Berg, and there's a couple other ones. Maybe I'll link them in this post. But go learn about apple cider vinegar and the benefits of it. Put a little bit in a glass of water. I put a little bit of lemon juice in there too, and sometimes even a little bit of cinnamon. Huge benefit for you, especially in a fasted state. And between your 2 meals is another good time to help you not have those cravings. The last one is just be careful. Like if you're having a hard time, I know some people have a hard time eating enough, and so like, well, I'm really not getting enough calories in, and you don't want to do that long term because our body needs the nutrients that comes from our food, so you don't want to not eat. I know that once I got fat adapted, I was struggling to eat enough food myself because I just wasn't hungry. Those cravings literally went away. But think of things that are more high in fat and protein that are small, like nuts. Nuts you have to be really careful with, especially in the beginning when you are hungry. But when you're not as hungry, having a little ounce of nuts is a really great way to get a bunch of fat in and to get a lot of protein in too. So try finding things that will work, that you don't have to eat a lot of, like salad. Okay, you have to eat a lot of salad to get all the carbs that would be bad for you. So if you're having big salads all the time and you're full, well, maybe cut your salads in half and add some protein or something else to that instead. And then the last thing is I'm just going to give you some of my favorite things that are like fats and proteins that I always try and incorporate. Number one for protein is real bacon bits. I buy a big bag from Costco and I put that on everything. So if I'm trying to bump up my protein and I'm like, I don't have enough protein, literally sprinkle them in my eggs, on my salad, like whatever. I have these real bacon bits. That's a really good tip. Obviously, hard-boiled eggs in my fridge is a great option. Salmon is a really good protein and fat source. It's so good for you. Definitely my favorite. And then also ground beef is a really good one and get the regular ground beef, not lean ground beef. You want the fat from the ground beef, so don't get like the reduced fat ground beef. And then another fat that I used, especially in the beginning, was mayo. Mayo is your friend. I dipped my chicken in it. I put it in my tuna salad. Like, use mayo. Obviously butter. Some people like to use MCT oil to get their fats up too. Just don't use too much of it. Again, that can also cause diarrhea, so just be careful. But MCT oil is a really great one because it doesn't get processed through our body like the rest of our food. It goes straight into our bloodstream and is used as fat burning fuel right away, and it kind of primes our bodies. So it's a really good tool to use. I feel like I've talked a lot, far too long. I'm talking really fast, but that is my list that I have so far. If you have any questions, leave your comments, let me know, and if there's anything else that you want me to try and answer, if you have any other questions, I would love to help as best I can. But I'm just, one, proud that you're even watching this video because keto has really changed my life. I've struggled with weight loss for 13 years, and this is the first time I've actually had success and been so proud of how it's working and how hard I'm working, but also how easy it is. In the end, it's not as complicated as people make it sound. Yeah, those are topics for a whole different video, but thank you so much, and I hope that this helped.